Welcome back to another Bandcamp Friday roundtable. We need to think of like a better name for this roundtable discussion. We have Michael from punk.a.folk YouTube channel, Chris Chavez from that one time at Bandcamp podcast, Jeff Bousquet from Dirty Decibels podcast, and we have Aria Rad from Coffin Salesman, who's joining us today as our guest, our first guest on Bandcamp Friday. How is everybody?
Woo-hoo.
Good.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I'm Trev, the struggling artist. Whatever.
Oh yeah. By the way.
Yeah. So we get together every month and we do this Bandcamp Friday thing where we recommend albums for you all, and we've started making it a little more fun by having a category being picked once a month. Michael picked this one, right?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me why. Tell me what it is and why.
Because this is how I buy 7-inches. Honestly, I just go into the local record store and I pick ones that look cool, and then sometimes they're awesome and sometimes they suck, as we found out.
Yeah. So we're going off of like what catches our eye as far as album art, right?
Yep.
Now, do you guys remember? Are you guys out of age where you had to do this?
Yep.
Where we had to go to the record store and just pick something out by what it looked like.
I do that more now. When I was younger, it was kind of like an economy thing where I kind of knew exactly what I wanted going in.
Yeah, I went in when I was doing that when I was younger. It was because I was always interested in trying to find something I hadn't heard before. So I'd base it on whatever artwork really struck me, and it obviously had to be in the genre section I wanted to go to. You know what I mean? But if it was something I hadn't heard before, I just look at it. Then the next thing I'd see is the track listing and the names of the songs. Like, what were the names of the songs? Were they interesting sounding? Cool. Buy it and see what it is.
Yeah.
I was poor, so it was like whatever I could stick in my pocket at FYE before people noticed it looked cool.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't think
they didn't have the plastic locks on top of them.
Not yet.
What? Not yet. And when they did, they always had those gaps at the corner that you could fit through the security thing as long as nobody was watching.
Dude, the big places like FYE and shit had that stuff later on, but the old school record stores like Strawberries and like Sam Goody, I don't ever remember having those things. Like, they were just CDs and packages.
I was Newberry Comics through and through. Ride or die.
I don't think I ever was in the was in the financial position to just go into a record store and like pick out something random. I think it was always I had something in mind that I wanted when I was a kid that age, but now I definitely absolutely.
I think back and like I think I got the Anthrax I'm the Man single, which was really like it was like a full-length tape, but it was just like different versions of I'm the Man on one side, and the other side had a couple other like B-sides. But I got it at a yard sale, and it was basically like, oh, I like that color, like I like how they wrote Anthrax or whatever. So I picked it up when I was young, and became a really big fan of the band for a long time. So at one point I had every one of their albums, and but it was cool going into the record store and just looking at things that looked neat, and I had a black, like, I think I want to say maybe Green Jelly was like the best cover ever at one point. Green Jelly had that the Three Little Pigs song. Am I updating myself here?
I don't know it.
Yeah.
I remember it.
I love that song, dude. They used to be Green Jello and had to change their name.
Yeah, they got
because of copyright.
Yeah, they got a cease and desist by Jello.
Yeah, they're from Buffalo. They're from the Buffalo area.
Of course they are. They had that. What was it? The Adventures of Shit Man.
Yeah,
that was a wild fucking record, and the cover was spot on what was going on with it too. So that was my favorite. I don't know. Do you guys have like a one that you remember like distinctly of cover art?
My first Bad Religion album, I think I've told this story before. I just picked it up. I had no clue who Bad Religion was, but my mother is like fucking crazy religious, and it had the Crossbuster logo on it. So I got it to piss her off. Ended up still like my favorite fucking band.
Nice.
I think a lot of the records I really liked had like terrible art. I think like when I was like 15, 16, because I think around that period, like in like the early 2000s, they still had money to like spend on music.
Yeah.
So bands could get away with like whatever, and it's just like stupid pictures of the band on the cover that is like not that interesting.
For me, I always think of like classic rock albums like Sgt. Pepper. Like to me, that's like an iconic cover, you know. And I always, if I think of album covers, I think of like classic rock mostly. Stones, Goat's Head Soup.
What about like Lover Boy with like the skin tight pants, red pants? I love that. I have that album. I love that album.
My mom had an album copy of I think it's Phil Collins's No Jacket Required. It's just like this like terrifying image of his face, like a giant close-up of his face with like a red like foggy hell background behind him. And when I was a kid, I never even listened to the record, but that record just used to haunt me. Like whenever I would see it in like the crate that all the records were in, like that freaked me out. I just thought it was like a terrifying album cover, and I remember that one standing out to me when I was a kid.
I'm putting all these album covers in the video.
Yeah. My father had I don't speak about him often, but I remember he had a few records in their stereo cabinet, and Gimme Shelter was one of them, and it was like a cake. It had like, it wasn't like a cake or something. Chris, you're shaking your head like you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know the song.
Oh, anyway, I don't know.
Good tune.
I just remember that. I think it was Gimme Shelter. I'd have to look it up. I'm not too concerned though with getting that one right. So, all right. So I guess we're gonna get going. Before we do, does anybody have any fundraisers to throw out there? You know what? I dropped the ball on this one and I did not.
I got we're recording this like a week before it's going live, but a lot of record companies are currently doing fundraisers for the people of Ukraine. So I don't have any specifics. I know AF Records is, so maybe give those people a hand. They're having a pretty fucking rough time right now.
Yeah.
Trev, I thought you and I both were gonna suggest the one that came out around Valentine's Day. I just can't remember that.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the comp. What's the name of the comp?
Jeff, we talked about that. It's now that's what I call Heartbreak 4.
That's it. That's
it. The 2000s. So it's every year they put out this charity compilation, and this year all the proceeds are going to Jane's Due Process. It's a Texas-based nonprofit. It helps young people navigate parental consent laws and access abortion and birth control.
Now, what's it called?
It's Texas. The name of the compilation is Now That's What I Call Heartbreak 4, the 2000s. So the emphasis is cover songs of the 2000s, and there's like over 30 tracks. A lot of really cool, fun stuff.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Like from just outrageously pop covers to like some more obscure things.
I'm looking it up right now. Nice.
It's got a lot of like local Boston artists and stuff on it, but I think people from all over too. And it's an impressive comp for sure. They also have comps out from the past several years, and they just go through the decades, like 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's kind of cool.
And they all go to different charities.
I think they go to different ones every year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
All right, Chris, you got one in particular? I don't.
You know, we always push Scotty Saint's the punk for a purpose, with a purpose. Yeah. To benefit Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation.
Yeah.
So that's a good one as well. A lot of good bands on that, good tracks.
All right. We always do the Benefit for Bueno, friends playing songs for a friend. Another good one to pick up. We do those. I mean, those two albums are always in the link tree for the podcast. So hopefully people go there, see that, and go, "Oh, what's this?" And then see how amazing it looks. You know. So
I still have it in my link tree as well.
Cool. So it's in the Dirty Decibels link tree as well.
It is. Yep.
Awesome. All right, so I guess you guys ready to get to it? We're gonna get into
Let's do it.
the meat and potatoes of this.
There's a lot to talk about.
There really is. This might be like, this might be the longest one we do. I don't know. I have so much to say about all of it.
It ended up being like 7 hours of music because I put it all in one playlist.
Yeah, it took me quite a while.
Yeah. So and I went through, like, just a refresher. I went through some of it today. So
Oh yeah, I re-listened to everything today. Well,
Somebody-
not everything. Some of it was a little too long.
I was gonna say somebody threw like an hour and a half album on there.
No comment.
I was gonna say what time do you guys wake up?
Well, let's we'll get there. Let's get there when we get there.
Yeah.
all right, I'll hit things off. So my local pick was the High End. Class Kicks is the name of the album. And they're out of, I think, Alston, Massachusetts. I learned about them. They did a show with Diablo Gatto, and Jesse Von Kenmore posted a video of them playing, and I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty good. I want to check it out. And it's like high octane roadhouse rock and roll music. I don't know. I was digging it. I checked out the album. The album was pretty good, and I said this will be a good one for what we're doing. What I like about it, though, is like a lot of people think like that. So like roadhouse rock, I don't even know like what decade that was like really popular, but it's definitely gotten like it's I think people with genres, they think they die out. They don't. You just got to look for the indie artists that do them. And I think these guys cover like that roadhouse style pretty well.
Yeah, I said what I wrote down was that it's grooving rock and roll. Did you guys notice the opening track that has this guitar lick that sounds like Nazareth's Hair of the Dog? Or is that just, did you guys hear anybody hear that?
I didn't.
It was very familiar. It was, what's that? I'm sorry, Aria, what'd you say?
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, but yeah, so for me, I heard that and it had that classic rock kind of, like you said, a roadhouse bluesy rock. It was familiar. And so that was one of the things I noticed about this, is that there's all these kind of familiar pieces of the past decades of rock in their music. But I enjoyed it. I put down that overall it was a fun album with many elements from the past. It's all at once familiar and fresh.
So I guess I went a little different. I wrote that it reminded me of like the 80s hair glam rock, those searing guitar solos and the vocal delivery and lyrically that kind of repetitive, like each song is repeating. The chorus seems to take the whole song. I liked it. It's just not really my style. But yeah, it was a good pick if you like that style of music.
Nice.
I agree. I thought I was I have to admit today I learned the term roadhouse rock. I don't think I've actually heard roadhouse rock before. But that's I feel like that's a good way to describe it. I wrote like motorcycle riding music.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, no, it had like the 70s, 80s, like kind of big. I literally wrote down like big hair and music video era, like babes in red dresses getting out of sports cars kind of music videos. Like that's what it reminded me of for sure. Like, so definitely like kind of the 80s, like hair, not hair metal, but you know what I mean? Like that glam rock kind of age. But yeah, no, I dug it. It was it was just fun and enjoyable, like rock and roll to listen to. I liked it.
Yeah, so I was actually a little like biased at the beginning because I know Johnny, who was the singer of the band, like I don't like know him very well, but I'm like familiar with a lot of the music he makes is like rockabilly. So like in my head, I was like, I knew this was his band, so I really thought I was going into a rockabilly record, and was surprised that it was like just like, as you said, roadhouse rock. And I think like the big thing that stuck out to me is like it's kind of, just like aggressively party rock music, like it's rock and roll music, but like the guitar player is like stealing the show the whole time. I think like that dude knows the sound he's going for and gets it, and like The more I dive into the stuff, the more I realize that's like not an easy thing to do. He's just kind of like shredding all over the place and has like the sound and like. So I mean, yeah, it's got like I thought it was a cool record. It's not like right up my alley. Usually I don't like to compare bands to other bands, but it kind of reminds me of Georgia Satellites. I don't know if any of you guys like them, but that's kind of my go-to like Roadhouse North Star for when I'm driving the van and break the stereo with how loud it goes. But yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
And I gave that album. So I rated all the album covers. I gave that one a 2.5 out of 5. So we're good. I did a 5 scale. I figured those with half points will be all right. All right. So for the album art criteria, I got a bit of a story for this one first. The first one I saw that I picked out, it turned out to be like Christian. You can't call it death metal because it wasn't.
You should have made us listen to it, dude.
It was
white metal.
Yeah. It said like white metal and not black metal, and it was.
This is your second pick we're talking about?
Yeah, well, it was my second pick, and I decided.
We're not mentioning.
I said I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
I could not get into. All I could think about is like what
I listened to that album.
Okay.
It was not. I didn't think it was very good. Personally.
I didn't either.
So
I didn't listen because we didn't have to.
I just couldn't get into it. So I went with. I didn't know what to do, so I figured we have Coffin Salesman on the podcast for today. I figured I'd go with Doomfolk, right? So the name of the band is The Widow's Ride, and originally it was their first album that popped up. But I thought, well, I want to do their latest one, and I'm glad I did. So the latest album is called The Familiar Song, and the cover art is very simplistic, but it has a lot of intricacy to it if you look like into the details of it, and it was awesome. It was I thought it was really good. It's a story. The whole thing's a storytelling. And it comes with a book, which I got in the mail. It's a hardcover book. It's a lyric book, but it's got pictures in it and stuff like that. What are you doing, dog? They autographed it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty wild. I think the pictures are pretty good. The artwork of it's pretty good. It goes with the story as well. Basically, this is like a story of a guy who meets the devil, right? And that's what I got out of it. And the devil's in my dog right now. What are you doing? Relax. Sorry. The devil's, the devil, he meets this devil and he offers him a deal. And I don't know. Everything about it, I liked it. It had like a country Western, like spaghetti Western feel to it. Like, which is weird to say about an album and not a film. Hey. This never happens. So anyway, that was my pick for the number 2. They're out of Kansas City, Missouri, too. Album cover of 5.
Nice. I was wondering when I looked at the album cover, I was like, I wonder what it was that drew Trev to this. I mean, it is like kind of simplistic and almost folksy, right? So I put on here that it's haunting and actually a little creepy. And the opening acoustic track is a little misleading because the next song dives into electric guitars, even though it's a slow down tempo. And I'm getting serious Nick Cave vibes from this. The third song, it's obvious that there's a specific sound that this band has, and it's the result of a mix of dark musical, spaghetti Western, folk, sea shanty flavored songs. I put that I love this because I did. I really dug this album. As soon as I finished listening to it, I bought it.
I went all Chris on this one and the next one, so I'm gonna have to look at my notes. I wrote cowboy guitar. Was my initial impression, like from the tone of the guitar to the strumming pattern to the chord progressions. There's some like Spanish guitar later in the album as well, but heavier. Every song sounds like it's from the most badass Western ever, and something bad is about to happen, is currently happening, or people are burying the dead and rebuilding the town clock tower. Vocals and delivery are fantastic, and I love that the album plays out as a single cohesive story, but the songs are strong enough to stand on their own. I really, really fucking dug this album.
Yeah. So what I liked about this album is like I liked that it lives up to the Doom thing because there are these kind of like heavy, kind of like psychedelic guitars that are like when the second track kind of comes in, I'm like they get big fuzzy desert vibes, and I really loved that. I thought like for my personal taste, I thought like the narrative was like a little campy. I think it's like his love dies and he makes a deal to have her restored to life. I think I'm not sure. I didn't do a deep enough dive, but I thought there was like some really interesting musical moments on it. But it wasn't like I didn't have it on repeat a lot.
So I didn't really dig this one too much. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I went into it really wanting to like it. That first track, like when it starts in, like I dig the overall like musical style. I was like, okay, this is like spooky doom folk kind of stuff. Like I dig this. I really wanted to. As soon as the singer started singing, I feel like it got a little too like butt rocky for me. His vocals remind me of the band Korn. He sounds like the singer from the band Korn to me, and that's all I could think of like as I was listening through it. And yeah, I also felt like it was a little too campy, like vaudeville-y, almost like the Belle of the Ball song. Like I was just kind of like, eh. I really and truly like I do dig like the overall like sound of like musically, but I just couldn't get into this one very much.
No. Hey, it's not gonna be for everybody, right?
I think like to defend the campy, I think that was part of why I liked it. I thought it was intentional, like somebody said, the old spaghetti westerns. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing I give them credit for is they do commit to the bit for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like it's not like 100% in my wheelhouse, but like they're doing the thing they set out to do. And I love the idea of compiling everything in a book. I think that's like super cool.
That lends itself to the genre well.
Yeah.
Doing that. Yeah, for sure.
But before I was rudely interrupted by Tula the Terrible, I did want to say something about two things. One, Chris, you had mentioned like what drew me to that artwork, and again, it's the whole simplicity of it, and like, but if you look deep into it, like the cover is because the cover of the album is the cover of the book, and it looks like a pencil sketch. Like the whole thing is like pencil sketch, but the dude with like the blood dripping down his face, like it's like he looks like a mobster from the 20s, and I don't know, there was just something about that I dug.
Nice.
And the vocals, Jeff. So I didn't get the Jonathan Davis from Korn's side. I did, however, like it was like some of the songs reminded me when he would sing of like a Violent Femme song, and some of it would remind me of Peter Steele from Typo Negative, but like the goth Typo Negative.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, that's but yeah, no, I don't know. I dug it, and sorry you didn't. I'm sorry you didn't. I'm sorry you had to suffer through that. So my X Factor is the album Holiday Heart by SNUGGLE. I like it's got an exclamation point, so I wanted to really beat home with the SNUGGLE, you know.
All in caps.
Yeah, all in caps. They're out of Seattle, Washington. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even remember how I stumbled. Oh, you know what? I think I was listening to another podcast and the song opened up with one of theirs, and the lead singer, his name's Jerome. He belts out lyrics, and it's kind of like this half singing, half yelling. Well, I guess it would be like 2-part yelling, 1 part singing, and 1 part talking. It reminded me kind of how Ryan Young sings in a way. Not like, I don't think they sound alike, but I think like the way they get, you know, they belt out a tune. It's very unorthodox. I like that. It's fast punk. It said something about crust punk. I don't even know what that means. But I guess if they call themselves that, then let's go with it. I kind of fell down the rabbit hole because like I was like, well, what do people who like this band, because they have that feature on Bandcamp, right, where you can see all the people who support them. So I'd click on a couple of them. I see, well, what else do these people like? And I found something called Pipsqueak through them, and that's the singer Jerome. That was like, I guess it was before Snuggle, and it was like an acoustic with a cello as well, and it was just a two person set band. It was him and this woman. It was really good. But some of the songs that were on Pipsqueak are also on. They also covered with Snuggle, So I just have to keep saying it like that. I'm sorry. No, I totally dug these guys. To the point where I grabbed the EP.
Nice.
And then,
honestly, from a cover art perspective, I dig that too. Pretty.
Yeah. I gave that one a 4.5. That album art gets a 4.5. It's almost graffiti like too. I like it. I don't know. I mean, honestly, they quickly became a favorite of mine, even though they only have a couple things out there. So
nice. I grew up listening to skate punk, so for me, I liked this. This was upbeat, fast driving skate pop punk. Rapid fire drumming, chugging bass lines, speeding buzzsaw guitars, razor raw vocals. This EP is meant to be played with the volume turned to 11. I totally dig it.
So I was sold by the name, like Trev. I was enamored by the fact that they put the exclamation mark there, like, fuck yeah, we're gonna snuggle. And then the album art, it's that anatomical heart surrounded by 40 bottles and razor blades. I loved it. The music, I have crushing drums played at breakneck speed that feel like they're about to fall apart at any moment. The vocals match. They're delivered with an urgency and force that makes it seem like the front man might collapse as soon as his message is delivered. The lyrics kind of reminded me of like early punk emo or pop punk / emo. But then they wrapped them up in a pretty brutal package. Like, I liked it. I did notice that there were a lot of the songs have time changes in them. And I don't know if that is to give everybody a break. Like, they'll go from, I don't know. I didn't actually count the BPM, but they will go from playing very fast to like a slow section and then right back into super fast. So yeah, that was 15 minutes that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I like right off my notes. I like my first impression. I think I stick to, and it's scrappy, frustrated as hell pop punk, and it's on brand for Dead Broke Records, who put this out, or Records. They released this, and a lot of what they release is fucking scrappy, frustrated as hell pop punk. What I liked about this is that the singer is just kind of like, he's just fucking really coming unhinged, just like really screaming it out, like really like like it didn't it didn't really like leave a huge impact on me, because like there are some bands something about it I didn't like totally connect with, but I enjoyed listening to it, and I love the just like the fucking ridiculous unhinged delivery. And one note I had was like, I think like seeing this band would be like a make or break on like me loving it. Like, I think if I saw this band, I would go home, listen to this record, and like, oh yeah, hell yeah. But
yeah, I didn't write a ton about this. I just the word I wrote was manic. Just like manic, kind of like heavy duty punk, super fast, like frenetic punk. And I dig the gravelly vocals and like the catchy hooks and stuff like that. It was like super fun to listen to. I always, Trev, I was saying it in my mind every time I see the name, I picture it like a whole bunch of gang vocals, like Snuggle. Like, that's what I picture every time I see the way it's written out. So
that's awesome.
I guess I could have went
like
that route.
At the end of a record, they would have a whole bunch of friends, or like at their show, just be like Snuggle.
Yeah,
don't they put an exclamation point on Pipsqueak too?
I don't know.
I like exclamation points. I put exclamation points on all my episodes for the cast.
Oh, nice.
Nice. There was a TV show called Trucks with like an exclamation point. So my friends, like, we'd always laugh when we see it in like the dating myself, the preview channel. Remember the preview channel would have like all the stuff that was on
Oh yeah.
network television. So
Yes.
we'd always go trucks every time we would see it. And I went that route with I like Snuggle. I like that. Oh,
all right. I guess it's my turn. Yeah.
yes.
All right. We'll start local Buffalo. The band is called Indentured. The album's called Resistance Etiquette. This is Buffalo hardcore, fast and unforgiving hardcore that barrels full speed ahead, taking moments to delve into experimental punk and metal. The production for me is on point. For a noisy hardcore band, you can hear every instrument and vocal clearly. And I loved it. I love it. It's just a high energy, just packed into just this little set of songs, and it blew me away the first time I heard it. And also the song Karen's my favorite. It's amazing.
So wait.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it right. I go last.
Man, fuck. I had Buffalo hardcore album that lyrically seems to take a tongue-in-cheek look at society and where we're at today. I really liked it. Karen was a fucking awesome song. It was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really hear anything that like popped out to me as exceptional, but like for me, just a traditional hardcore album's enough to get it done. Like I don't typically exceptional in that genre tends to be bad. So I was totally fine with it. The only thing I was bummed about was that their only physical media is a tape, and I don't have a tape player. So I'm gonna have to buy a tape player.
That's a good excuse too.
It's worth it. I got a tape deck here. It's really, and I have a tape from this band on the way because I fucking love it. Like when I first heard it, it was kind of like it felt like a little interesting, but kind of like average to me. But the more I played it, the more I'm like, hell yeah! I love how snarky the band is and how they fluctuate from like pretty serious stuff to kind of hilarious stuff. Like Karen obviously being like a banger hit that probably shouldn't be. Like kind of those like cultural topics. It's kind of like easy to make a cheesy song about that, but they just like own it and it's hilarious and they rip. And it's kind of like a lot of hardcore borrows a lot from hip hop, but I feel like this band like leans into that just like that hair bit more, where like the vocalist is like almost sort of rapping over some parts, and like it really worked for me. Like after listening to it, I was like, oh, it's okay. And then I like wanted to go back and listen to it more. So nice. I'm really hyped up about this band. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to this.
I love it. I wrote like staple basement dive bar or like punk venue soundtrack, like just exactly the type of thing I'd expect to be here playing over like the house music there. It was what I wrote. I wrote reminds me of being in a sticky rad dark venue, gritty fast hardcore punk, angry, and I'm definitely into it. I always laugh so hard when we're all on the same page about something. As soon as everybody was like, Karen is a fucking, like, I wrote that, like, love the lyrics, especially Karen. It's like very, I usually don't like music or lyrics that are not poetic. Like I feel like a lot of times when lyrics are very literal and like almost it can very easily become campy and almost like stupid, like just like singing about something in a completely literal way with no nuance to it at all. But like Aria said, they really own that on the, like they lean into it, and they're just like, my name is Karen and I want to see your manager. I'm shitty, but like they just lean all the way into it and just totally like make it, blatantly tongue in cheek, and it's perfect. Like it just worked really well. So yeah, I dug it a lot.
Right off the rip, I was like, this sounds familiar, and I was like, what is this? And then by the time it got to Karen, it dawned on me. They're like a modern day Black Flag. Like they have that kind of,
I could see
that kind of style of hardcore, which definitely has, there's definitely a place for it, and I enjoyed it. Even the cover, which I gave a 2.5. I gave the cover a 2.5. The burning van, it reminded me of like Black Flag touring in their van. You know what I mean? Like it was, yeah, I dug it. I was into it. I was definitely into it.
Nice. Yeah. Now this one's the art one, and immediately I saw the cover. You know, it's cartoony. It's a cowboy riding a giant fish, a catfish. It's a band, and then the name of the band too. The name of the band is the THEE, the Scarecrows, aka, and the album is called Catfish Head. I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I just picked the band or the cover and then hit play. I didn't even go down to see what the genre was or anything. And right away, psychobilly, bluesy rock and roll. It's foot stomping, saloon jams. It's fast, raucous. It's got Elvis Presley style vocals, and it's surprisingly catchy. Like I listened to it the first time through, and I'm like, okay, this has got that kind of westerny kind of psychobilly feel to it. And I get that, you know, there's a lot of people that really love that, and it's cool. I don't mind it. But then I found myself kind of singing the Fungus Among Us, that just kind of, you know what, I just kept singing that, and I'm like, oh my god. I walk by my wife and I'm just like, the Fungus Among Us. She's like, what are you singing? I'm like, you got to hear these guys. So I looked a little deeper. These guys are from the UK, playing psychobilly, saloon stomping, bluesy rock and roll. And not just that, these are like the Slipknot version of psychobilly. These guys play as scarecrows. They wear scarecrow masks. They got the overalls.
They do.
Dude, it's insane. I watched a couple of their YouTube videos, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, they're just owning it. So for me, this was a surprise because, again, you know, I picked the album based on the cover, not knowing what we're going to get. And then I just found myself, the more I listened, the more I liked it. You know what I mean? It's not the greatest album, but man, it's fun. It's a fun album.
So I have a little story because this album made me laugh really hard. Trev's not the only one who mulliganed his visual pick. So if you look, like you said, they actually dress like scarecrows and stuff. My visual pick was a band. They were dressed as werewolves on the album cover, and I thought that was fucking funny. And then they're a werewolf band. So like, they were really bad, and all their songs were about masturbation, which I wasn't digging. But as soon as I looked on Bandcamp and saw your pick, I was like, I'm not even fucking listening to this. And then last night I did try it, and I love rockabilly, and it's that blue, like you said, bluesy rockabilly, psychobilly. I really dug it. I think I listened to that album probably 3 times last night.
Yeah, so like this is weird because it's like it's sleazy, swampy rockabilly is like what I think's happening. Like it's not reinventing the wheel by any means, but when we talk about committing to the bit, this band definitely does that. And so I feel like people who like listen like the legendary Shack Shakers, like a band like that, this is like right at home in those things. I actually didn't know they dressed like scarecrows. That actually makes me more entertained. Because at first I thought it was just kind of sleazy.
Like the old timey ones with the burlap sack over their heads.
No, I have it pulled up right now. Now that I have that bit of information, it's like makes it a little more fun for me. Like it is super fucking sleazy, but that's what it's supposed to be. So like it's fun. I would throw this on at the party.
Yeah, I leaned into the like goofy side of, like, I got more like a goof, like it literally reminded me of that cartoon, that like bizarre cartoon from the early 90s, Rocket-Doodle, which was like this this kids movie about like a rooster that won't like sang like Elvis, but it was like bizarre and really dark and weird. That's kind of like what it reminded me of. But I wrote down, sorry, I switched pages, but no, I thought it was cool. I love the harmonica track on it. I love the I love that like hot rail recording of like the like real dirty harmonica on different records. That's always been a mixing element that I appreciate. So yeah, I dug that, and it was also like, if you listen to, I mean, they're kind of jokey, like clever lyrics too. So they just lean into the whole shtick again, which is, I mean, you got to respect, at least if somebody's gonna do the shtick, that they do the shtick all the way. You know, I'm not generally someone who likes shtick, but but like if you're gonna do it, I guess, you know, own it and do it. So the whole dressing in like Scarecrows thing would be awesome to see. That would be really funny.
All right, first and foremost,
that sigh was all we needed, Trev. That was all we needed.
the album art's a solid 5. Solid 5. It was awesome. Aria brought up the word sleazy. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. I called it crudabilly.
I like that.
Yeah, I called it crudabilly. It's meant to be fun spirited and you're bopping, you kind of bopping along to the music, like you said, like you find yourself singing Fungus Among Us and listen, like, you know, and I looked into them too, and that was the first thing I was like, these guys are from Europe, like, you know,
Yeah.
and then I see like the Scarecrow bit and like, yeah, all right, so I mean, let's be real here, like they're making fun of America, right? Like,
Honestly, I don't know about that.
I don't know.
I think they like it, dude. I think that's their
Yeah.
gimmick, man.
Yeah,
I think I just feel like that era, like that, just I don't know. It you know what? It had like I wasn't upset with it. You know what I mean? Like I found myself fucking bopping along to it while I was driving. It's not something I'm gonna always go to. I might throw it on at a party to be like, hey, listen to this, you know, to a group of people. But yeah, no, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. That was a good pick for an album art for sure. You know,
I just want to, as a quick aside, if anyone wants more like sleazy, ridiculously blown out blues from not America, there's this label called Voodoo Rhythm Records, and everything they put out is abjectly ridiculous. I think they're from Switzerland, and they have just really bizarro bands. So I just want to.
Nice.
This kind of reminds me of that kind of thing.
Nice. So my next one, so here's the thing about the next one. I didn't know this because I wasn't familiar with this, but Quiet Country Audio is actually a studio out here in Buffalo. And what we submitted here for the X Factor, the name of the band is Those Mockingbirds. They're a band out of Jersey. And what happens is these bands come into the studios at Quiet Country Audio and they record sessions so they could put them out as little EPs, right? And so that's what this was. Those Mockingbirds recorded a 4-song session there. Most of the songs are off of their album Penny the Dreadful. So that's the name of this band, Those Mockingbirds, not Quiet Country Audio. Anyway, this band, again, you know, the only reason I picked them was because I was just kind of looking through local stuff, you know, Buffalo, what do we have out here? And when I saw Quiet Country Audio, I just kind of liked the sound of that. And I didn't know it was the studios. And I saw, you know, they had a few of the different recordings there. But this was one that stood out to me. For me, this was straight up hard rock and roll with garage country blues flavor. Kind of like the Scarecrow, the first song on the Scarecrows. It's loud, fast, and rollicking. The first tune is, but the rest of the album has more of like elements of murder folk and maybe alternative 90s rock. The band also has a violinist, which always adds to this kind of haunting atmosphere to some of these songs. So overall, you know, these 4 songs, I really I got into them. And it's one of these things, the more I listened to it, the more I really got into it. And that's what made me kind of look this up further and find out that it's actually the band Those Mockingbirds. Yeah, I really like this one a lot.
I must not have got very into this. I love the guitar and I love the vocal harmonies and the drummer hits really hard. So I'm really adding nothing to the conversation right now.
Yeah, I wanted to, going in, seeing the cover and stuff, I wanted to like really like this. It just doesn't really connect with me. I wrote that it's like a little proggy for like where my taste lies, but I got to give them credit for being tight, really tight, especially for like a live in studio recording. And there are parts of it that kind of have this like big, like you were saying, like late 90s. I was thinking like kind of like early 2000s, big like anthemic style rock. Yeah. So I feel like this band would have really taken off like around that time. Like their music kind of fits in that kind of narrative for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wrote it's high energy, like dense rock. I wrote like almost kind of like emo meets folk meets alt rock kind of stuff. It wasn't necessarily my favorite either, but I think I would like to try to like get more into this band or listen to more of what they've put out. but I do really love like the format of how they release all these little EPs. And if I had stumbled upon any of these as a cover art pick, I absolutely would have been drawn to it because I love photography and
Yeah.
I love like the style that they did with all these little EPs with all these different like stitched together kind of collages of these different bands in the studio. And so I think that's a cool little like format to do. And I would like to check out a lot of the other. I'm gonna definitely check out some of the other things that Quiet Country Audio has put out because I think that's a cool like that's a cool like format to do. I did think it was mixed really well. The production stuck out to me. I thought it sounded great. I thought the sound quality of it was awesome. So yeah, I thought it was cool.
Knowing that that it was like a studio that put it out, like I'm gonna up my cover art from a 1.5 to a 2.5 because now it makes sense because like they're all like that, right? So when I just saw and I was like, why are they all just doing pictures like that? But it makes sense because it's like, you know, it's from what they're going for. I think it sounds like there's really nothing I can say that no one else said already. I found it to be a breath of fresh air. Like it's a real solid alternative band. The sound was clean, was very clean, and it makes sense again because it's a studio that put it out. They want to have their best, you know. Yeah, no, I mean it was good. It definitely reminded me of like it was just like an alternative band, like kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, kind of like what Aria was saying. So not, like I said, not much more I can add to the combo on that one. Other than I liked it.
Cool.
All right.
Wheezy, you're up.
I'm coming in hot. What the fuck was I gonna? Oh, my local pick was Viceroy Kings from Dayton, Ohio. The single is Drunken Alibis from 2020. I really like rockabilly, and this sound fit really good for me. It sounds to me like it could have came out of Memphis in the 50s. There's gritty vocals, dirty guitar, hard-hitting drums, rock and roll piano, which I love. I mean, they kind of had me hooked there. And a cover of like one of my favorite protest songs from the 80s that was made popular by the Dropkick Murphys. So I just kind of dug all three songs on this album.
Yeah, my first thing when I saw this, I was like, the band is named after a cigarette, and it sounds accordingly. So like, yeah, I thought it was like a fun couple records. The Drunken Alibis song I thought was like had like a good hook to it, and it's like they skew like a little more rock for this kind of thing because I feel like a lot of like rockabilly bands kind of like swing their beat a little bit more. But it's kind of interesting that there's something about it where there's like one notch over into being like a little more straightforward rock without losing that kind of swagger. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I enjoyed listening to it. The cover at the end was kind of unexpected. I was just walking around listening to it, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I thought they had a really interesting take. So I thought it was like it was a fun little EP.
I wrote Social D meets Billy Bragg. It kind of has a fun like some fun anthemic hooks and stuff like that. I do feel like for me personally, the whole like protesty working class punk rock kind of vibe, they have that sort of vibe that I feel like is, to be perfectly honest, kind of was ruined for me by the Dropkick Murphys a little bit, but that's a whole other thing to go into. I like as soon as I heard like the Workers song, I was just like, this just reminds me of the Dropkick Murphys. But I like their sound. I do think they have like a really cool like enthusiastic sound. It's got like really dirty, gritty vocals and stuff like that, which I always like. And so I did enjoy listening to it. It's a good EP.
Yeah, the scratchy, gravelly vocals. I'm all about it all the time.
Yeah.
I thought their cover of Workers song was really good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely like I didn't know it was a song. I knew it wasn't a Dropkick original song, but I didn't know where it came from to begin with, so I've never heard the original. But I think they did a great job with it. It reminded me of like, it's got like a rockabilly, then like a country, almost like a country rock guitar to it that I kind of feel with it. But yeah, I dug it. I listened to, this is one of the ones I kind of wore out my welcome with Bandcamp with, just because I wanted to make sure I had it, had it down. Album cover, solid 3.
Nice. I wrote country punk and roll. I'm a fan of music. It's kind of like that foot stomping, whiskey swigging, barroom shaking energy. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is a band that would be fun to see live. So I enjoyed it, and I was reading some of the info on their Bandcamp page, and Punk News said it best. This is punk informed by the vibe of outlaw country. It's a solid pick. I liked it.
My second pick based on visuals was Field Day's Single Y. I just liked I like that 50s like advertisement look, and then they did it with the pointillism that makes it look like a Warhol. So I just dug the album cover. This band is apparently comprised of members from Dag Nasty, and I did not know that before I picked it, but it sounds like Dag Nasty turned up like that early era Washington DC hardcore. I thought it was a solid album.
Yeah, so I had heard the name of this band kicking around, and like I'm not really very familiar with the Dag Nasty, and I know like they have like different lineups or whatever. So I guess this is pretty much like an extension of that, but they're like really tight melodic punk band, kind of very reminiscent of kind of like your 90s kind of skate kind of sound, like not like the shreddy skate, but more like the melodic kind of stuff. And like it's not something I would listen to a lot because I kind of have bands that kind of fill that void, but I like listening to it. It's very clear that these guys are like veteran musicians of the genre they're doing. They're like exceptionally tight, exceptionally well performed, like well written songs. And so like, I enjoyed listening to it. It like went down smooth.
I can't remember what order we're supposed to be going. You're up. I wrote like Bad Religion descendancy vibes in like the vocals, the tone of his like vocals. 90s kind of alt rock mixed with pop punk like kind of riffs and stuff like that. And I dug like the definitely very blatant socio-political lyrics that they have going on. So I didn't write too much. That's all I wrote about this. It wasn't necessarily like super, I didn't feel like it was super impressive in any specific way or unique, but I thought it was like tight as hell and definitely sounded like really polished and definitely like a real pro record. So I dug it.
I should have went with the Werewolf Band.
If this band was a cocktail, it would be like 2 part Pennywise, 2 part Bad Religion, 1 part Face to Face. The artwork is definitely like Bad Religion-esque to me. I don't know. I've kind of felt that.
Yeah,
way.
I see that.
I dug it though. The album was good. It's another one that I wore out my listens because I was trying to make sure I heard enough of it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you kind of get lost in music and you just like, yeah, I just heard Pennywise. Like, no, that's not Pennywise. It's this band. So I'd have to go back and I'd have to listen to it. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that they're copycats or anything like that. It's just, you could really, it's just got that Los Angeles, like that LA kind of sound to it, you know? I feel anyway. The album cover, solid 5.
Classic. I put nice mix of punk, hard rock with little elements of metal in there. It's fast and melodic. There's some pretty sick high octane guitar work on this, including a very sweet lead on that first track. The EP is a tight power punch, clocking in at just under 10 minutes. Very nice. Yeah, I thought it was fun. This is right up my alley. I like this.
My X Factor pick was Pigeon Pit's last year, actually December last year. Feather River Canyon Blues. This is my X factor because I found it when I was looking for albums, and I like Pigeon Pit, so I figured I'd see what their new album sounded like, and it's really good. I like folk punk, and I like the female harmonies and that like melancholy yet mildly hopeful lyrics over just stripped down acoustic instruments that sound like they found them in their barn. Like they just went and found every fucking instrument that was laying in a barn somewhere and threw it into a song.
Yeah, so this one I've like seen this cover art around, and like, to be honest, a lot of like folk punk kind of leaves like not the best taste in my mouth, because I'm like, it's a lot of times it's like just pop punk played really fast on an acoustic guitar, and it's like mildly annoying and slightly out of tune. But this band was fucking awesome. I love this record. It's like everything I would want in kind of like a folk punk record. Like it's heartfelt. It feels like it makes you want to like get on a bus somewhere and just like not come back. That's kind of like the big mood I feel on this record. And just like they're tight, and like the delivery on everything is good. The songs are good. Like, yeah, I just love everything about it. It kind of reminds me of like when I first heard Defiance, Ohio when I was in like high school. It kind of like, it doesn't sound like that, but it feels like that. It has this big like emotional core to it, and I thought I was very impressed with this record.
We have finally arrived. I fucking loved this band. I love this record. Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah.
For picking this out. Absolutely agree with everything Aria just said. I fucking loved this record. Milk Crates is absolutely my favorite track off of it. I didn't really write a lot about it. I just wrote love a whole bunch of times. It's got like the rawness of Mischief Brew, but with like anthemic gang vocally, like kind of like hooks and choruses and stuff like that in it that have like a, you know, a little bit more of like a pop punk or like kind of folk punk vibe. I loved it. It was perfect. I don't know. I'm never good at pulling words sometimes when I'm better at pulling words when I don't like something sometimes than when I'm pulling words when I do like something. But it was just so enjoyable to listen to. It just made me wish like that it was summertime, and that I like same like that I was out just on a train somewhere, or like just on the road or something. There's just something about it that has that kind of like wandery, like a little bit cynical, and like kind of they're really emotional, heartfelt lyrics, but they kind of hit in like a really hard way. And I absolutely love this. Was my 100% my favorite pick from this whole round, and super stoked that I found it. So thank you for bringing it to the table.
I'm gonna go back and listen. I definitely dug it, but and here's the thing. I've talked about it before on the podcast, how like I say we're spoiled living where we live, Jeff, because of the folk punk that's here. This was right up that alley. I liked it. I totally dug it. Maybe you know what, part of it could be I love Washington so much. Maybe that's why. It definitely had a Washington vibe. It definitely had a wandering vibe, and these are all things that have already been said. So I'm gonna keep it short. The album cover, those only get a 1.5. So.
I love the album cover.
Yeah, fuck that album cover.
I agree with what everybody said. This is the same as Jeff. This was my favorite of all the ones we had so far on this for this episode. You know, I've said this before. I'm a sucker for pedal steel, and it's all over this album, and it's just and that idea that you say about that wandering feel, for me it's almost like this wide open space feel, right? Like that open road, or like I don't know, man. It's so nice. This was another one that immediately I bought it right after listening to it. I just went and bought it so I could listen to it over and over. I also put that the songs are beautifully written. I love the vocals and the Americana flavored musicianship. This was just, this is killer. This was like, this is 5 stars for me. This killed it. Loved it.
And they're playing shows with a band, Apes of State.
Oh,
I
nice.
found from your podcast actually. So
That's awesome.
I would really love to see them if they come to town. I feel like I picture them putting on a show that has like big crust punky vibes, but that like gets everyone in, like draws everyone in immediately type
Yeah.
of thing. Like that.
Yeah.
That's just the vibes that they give me. It's great.
It was nice because I'm just like so cautious about like finding a band like that because I feel like just so much of it sucks that that it's like so good to finally like hit a band that like really works for me. So I'm stoked.
Nice. Sweet.
Okay, so
You're up, Aria.
I guess I'm up in the round. So yeah, my first pick for a local pick, it was kind of a challenge because what I wanted to do was I wanted to find something recently released, but also that I'd never heard of before. There's obviously lots of cool bands and cool people I want to prop up, but I wanted to find something that like I don't know the people, I don't know the band, like I don't know anything about it, and so the band is Mirrored Hell, and it's their self-titled EP demo called Mirrored Hell, and they're like a lo-fi spacey goth band, and they just kind of nail the sound and the vibe. And one thing I really like about it is I love the cover art to start. It's kind of like an illustration of a face. Hard to describe over Zoom, but yeah. And it's not like particularly unique in the genre field, but it does what it's trying to do really well. And it kind of just sits in the pocket for the duration of the EP. So I'd love to see this band live, and I'd love to see how they kind of like expand that sound going forward. But it's hard, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to nail a lo-fi sound. And everything about how this band sits sonically complements the music to me perfectly. I love a good jangly chorus-driven guitar once in a while, so it hit that nerve for me.
Jeff, you're up.
I feel like I want to say like, so as a general rule, I usually don't like a lot of like music that is synth heavy. Like I don't like a lot of electronic music. This band has come at a really weird time. So like last week I screened this film at the venue where I work that was put out by a band called Boy Harsher, which is an electronic based, like heavy synth based band. And that band, they're a really weird band, but they very strangely put a few hooks in me, like where I started to kind of appreciate the synth a little bit more and be like, yeah, I can get into some stuff that like that is, electronic driven. And so this band, actually, the timing of hearing Mirrored Hell was perfect. I actually really did dig it. It has this droney synth spacey kind of feel to it. It's just, I wrote weird music for a weird headspace. Like there are definitely times where I could imagine myself putting this on and just being like, I just want to be weird right now. I dug the like lo-fi spooky vibes and like the vocals, and I think Aria just said it really well, that it's hard. It can be hard to do lo-fi well. Like you have to kind of fit into the boundaries of like it. You purposely make it sound lo-fi, but the actual quality of it is good, And they did that pretty well. I dug it, and it was also just cool to find another local band from Boston that I also had never heard of before, which seems to be hard to do lately for me. Like I want to find more local bands that I've never heard of or heard at all. So
there's a lot of trash to weed through, I will say.
Of course, well, obviously, yeah.
I mean, there always
is.
Just using the Bandcamp Finder.
The timing of this was great, and I did dig the record. So yeah, it was cool.
I agree. It's I love when I hear a band that's local to the area that I'm from. The region, and I've never heard them before, and I enjoy it. These guys, this band gives me, and from the artwork, which I gave it 3.5, from the artwork to the sound, to the synth sound, to everything about it, reminds me of like a fantasy land, like a fantastical kind of film. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Labyrinth,
which was weird because they recorded it at a place called Labyrinth Studio. Labyrinth, or like Ridley Scott's Legend. Like it sounds like music that would be put in that. And in the Ridley Scott Legend, like that was Tangerine Dream that did that soundtrack. or that score, and it was the American version anyway, and it was like it's totally like synthy and it's got I don't know, man. I was totally into this. Labyrinth was one of the movies. Mirror Mask was another one, which is weird because the band's called Mirrored Hell. There's all these little parallels that I keep drawing with this band, but it gave me like it kind of gave me some like Bowie vibes a little bit, which plays into the Labyrinth thing, because you know what I mean? Like it's just fucking weird, man. I dug it. I had new wave synth alternative radio station being played between The Cure and the Smiths. Like, like if it was on a radio, that would be the bridge between those two bands would be Mirrored Hell.
That's amazing.
I dug it, man. I really did. I was totally into this one.
That's funny. This is alternative new wave post punk. I love the synth. This feels like it would be right at home with dark pop synth of the early 80s, like The Cure or Joy Division. I dig the vocals, the musicianship, the arrangements. This was another EP I ended up buying after listening. I like the sound. I've always been a fan of The Cure, since I was younger. And I got into Joy Division later. I found out about them much later, but I like a lot of that early stuff. So this was right here. That scratched my itch. I liked it a lot. I dug it.
Also, I want to say real quick, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Michael, but I could see them playing this with like a performance going on in front of us. Like some weird, like they, the costumes you got to wear, the black costumes, like all the way over your head, and then like the mask on top of your head kind of thing. Like I see that for this band. And if they're listening, do that. I only want a 1% cut of what happens. I was sold. Aria
definitely lends itself to a performance art. This music for sure. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I'm going to echo Jeff. Like, I don't really dig synth music at all, but for some reason I was kind of able to get into this. Like musically, I like this album. The only problem I had with it was, I don't know if it's just me, but maybe I'm losing hearing in that frequency range or something, but it felt like the vocals just sat really far back in the mix.
They were
definitely. Okay. Yeah. I was like, shit, I need to go to
very low in there.
I need to go to the doctor.
No,
okay. Yeah. But yeah, musically I loved it. I just couldn't, I don't know, for some reason I couldn't get into the vocals.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's just so many things that other people said that I want to address. One, before we get anything, is a Labyrinth. I don't know what's going on with that movie. My partner's tried to make me watch it, and I sit down like, what? And I get through 5 minutes, and I fall asleep, and I'm so confused.
I've always hated that. I always hated that movie. I just like the Magic Dance song. That's the only thing about that movie I like.
It kind of disturbs me. And then the other thing is that band Boy Harsher was actually going to be my local pick because they released the soundtrack to that movie that they
did, The Runner.
Scored and wrote the movie. It's called The Runner, and it's great. But I thought they were probably too popular to really like. They got it covered.
They're kind of they're kind of big time now. But
you got to signal boost a little bit where we can. All right, so my next pick.
Now we're doing the one I'm really ready to talk.
Okay, I have to add a bit of a disclaimer. Is like right around the time, right before I got asked on for your lovely show, I had found this album, and I'm like, wow, album based on the album art. I'm like, this pretty much sells it for me. I'm like I was like, ooh, if someone ever asked me like what album, like what's an album art cover that like you saw the album art and you're like, hell yeah, this is the one. So the band is called Zaäar, and the name of the record is called Magicka Dz. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right, but that's okay. And so I'll start by describing the cover. It's an illustration or painting of a jungle scene, and all the animals have bizarrely shaped bodies and small necks and heads, and it's extremely surreal and unsettling, and it sounds exactly like the album art. So I think this band, they're kind of like a drony experimental jazz collective, and yeah, I think the best way to describe this record is it sounds like walking around the jungle at night. If you put on headphones, go for a walk at night, it's kind of scary, kind of unsettling. I love records that have kind of weird, creaky noises. There's a lot of creaking. There's a lot of tension, a lot of slamming on bizarre things, and it is long. So this record's like, I think it approaches like 90 minutes or so. But if you need something weird to walk alone to at night, I highly recommend this record. I shelled out the extra money to ship myself a copy.
It looks beautiful. The album, the record looks beautiful.
Yeah, and so this Italian label, I Void Hanger, generally puts out some pretty bizarre metal. And so I was flipping through their releases, and this one caught my eye. And then I'm like, oh, this is not what I thought. But yeah, no, so I'm really stoked about it. It's a lot to listen to at once. So I haven't given it very many all the way through takes. It's kind of, you need to be in that headspace, but I think it's a cool record.
Yeah, I wrote, I'm very curious. I really found myself wanting to know what's going on in the record. Water bowls. There's saxophone in there. There's obviously guitars and stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of water bowls going on. So I would have liked to have seen them recording it, just from a nerdy technical standpoint. It just seems super interesting to me. And I wrote down horror soundtrack material for sure. Like you could score a horror, you could write a horror film to have this be the soundtrack too, I think, as well. So it was super interesting.
This was very atmospheric. The album art is off the charts. I gave it a 5, but it's off the charts. Like it would get like a 25 if I could. The soundscape reminded me of like a 60s to 70s like sci-fi show or movie, like Land of the Lost or Planet of the Apes. Like it had that kind of sound to it. It's something that, and I was listening to it before. This is not one that I wore out my welcome with. But it took me a few different times to listen to everything, because like you said, it's very long. I was listening to it before I put on whatever I was listening to before we started this, and I was like, this reminds me of like something you would play at a haunted like a haunted house attraction, like a scary movie or something, like Jeff said. Yeah, you didn't disappoint, Aria, with bringing this to the table by any means.
You didn't disappoint with bringing the weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely kind of, woo. It was sometimes I was like, man, it's like making me like not get an upset stomach because I couldn't stomach the music, but like it was fucking with me internally. I'm like, what is going on here? Like it's
if you listen long enough, it becomes like kind of anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very slow, but it's
I think that's what was going on. You know what I mean? I really do. So, yeah, no, I mean, again, if I was to make like a remake of Land of the Lost or the Planet of the Apes TV show, I would put this music in there for sure.
I was at a loss for words. I was like, how do I even describe what I'm listening to?
You?
Right? So I went to
were at a loss for words.
Because I'm like, what is this genre even? So
that's a victory.
If Chris is at a lot, yeah. If Chris is at a loss for words, we're all fucked.
Like the album art.
I was like, I don't even know how to explain. Like, if somebody said, what genre is this? I wouldn't even know what to say. So I was looking, how it gives the descriptions on Bandcamp. So these are some of the ones that were on Bandcamp: drone, experimental, avant-garde, jazz, free improvisation, and tribal. So these are the only, I only wrote 2 sentences after that. There is a terrible beauty to this album, because just like the cover is beautiful, but it's fucking terrifying. Like, it's the stuff of nightmares. It's like those old, those old paintings where, some of the masters would paint what they thought hell looked like. And it's people with long, spindly arms and tiny bodies and big mouths. And you know what I mean? Like, that's what the cover, it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, but there's something terrifying about that cover, and the music just fits it. But there's still there's a beauty to the way it's like it all kind of comes together. It's a really weird way to say that. And then the last sentence I wrote was, these soundscapes feel like the score to a Robert Eggers or Ari Aster film. If you guys are familiar with any of their horror movies, horror movie directors, but yeah, this is definitely like horror movie score material.
Yeah. Now, Ari Aster's unsettling too. He makes his own
Yeah.
voices. Yeah.
Can we discuss the fact that these weirdly shaped animals on the album cover don't even have the right fucking body parts?
No.
They're like, there's
That's what
like
I'm saying,
cat paws on a cow's body with wings. I wrote doom jazz. Like that was how I described it in my head. And I don't like jazz normally. I'm like, you're just playing a lot of notes for no fucking reason. But I was oddly entranced by this album. It's like it feels like, it's probably not, but it feels like there's a lot of improvisation. Not only with the instruments, but with what instruments they're using. Like somebody just randomly walked in and picked something up and started playing it halfway through the song, which was 10 minutes long.
Yeah, I can't imagine like how they would like write down everything they're gonna do. It seems like it just kind of they just go.
Being as long as this album was, I actually listened to it more than once. I dug it. It has that spooky, creepy. You guys all mentioned movie scores, but I was a nerd at one point in my life, and I liked like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Like it felt like it could fit into the score for one of those games. And if you listen to it on headphones, as Aria suggested at night, don't. It's
Just don't.
It has this like, I mean, for me, it had this like claustrophobic, closed in feel. Like normally with an album that we've brought up that has been a soundscape, like Chris's last month, where everything was wide and airy, this just all felt like closed in tight in my head and gave me creepy vibes, which I dig. I mean, I liked it. I don't know how often I'd listen to it, but I liked it.
I will fully admit, to full disclosure, I did not listen to the entire thing cover to cover.
I mean,
I
that's
definitely
fine.
could not. I scrubbed through it from piece to piece, and I was like, this is really interesting, but I'm gonna have a panic attack if I listen to this for any longer, like too long in a row. So
I was like 10 minutes into the first song. I was like, is this still going? Holy shit, 22 minutes.
God, yeah,
The first track is 22 minutes.
It takes a long time for anything to like happen.
The first time I listened to it, I did the same thing. I looked at what I was playing it from and was like, this album has to be about over by now. You know, I'm on song 1.
Nice.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff, it's like, it's not so much the listening, it's what happens like when you stop listening. You're like, not really, like, it feels arduous, but then like, how do you stop? You just turn it off and you have the silence of your room. Then it's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, anyway, moving on. So my X factor is.
I am pumped for this one. Pumped.
So I don't know if I'm pronouncing their name correctly, but it's Znous. They're called Znou, and this record Znous-Znousland 3. So it's this most recent EP record from this Tunisian metalcore, hardcore band, I guess, if we want to call them that. And what I love about this record is that they kind of skirt with all these kind of different styles of like heavy music, like metal and hardcore, and they kind of flirt with like things that have been popular in like the 2000s, but really shitty. Like there's kind of like things that approach new metal, that approach like rap metal, that approach these ridiculously like overproduced catchy riffs, but they go at it so hard that it's like just undeniably fun for me to listen to. And reading through their lyrics and stuff, a lot of their lyrics are very anti-authoritarian. And so it's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting because I always thought the record was really fun, but then I dig into it and a lot of the stuff they're skirting with is like really serious. And actually like the Tunisian police recently confiscated like all their merch. And so it's like, it's interesting to listen to a band from a part of the world where they have like skin in the game regarding the things they're
Yeah.
singing about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like just love the record. It just goes really hard, but it's like fun to listen to. Like the riffs are catchy. A certain song goes into like starts with like slap bass. I'm like, yeah, I just like it. It pumps me up. It gets the blood moving for me.
Sorry, I thought this was really cool too. I think I always enjoy. There's something like so cool to me about how you can listen to a style of music, especially like in the punk rock world, from an entirely different country that is in an entirely like different language, which like would happen pretty often, like going up to Poozah Fest a few different years, you know, like, and hearing bands up there like singing in French. And even it's like, even if you don't know the language natively, or you don't know what the lyrics mean that they're specifically singing about, like you can still like kind of understand it in a way. Like you can feel what they're feeling through this style of music that is not even if they're not singing in like the same language that you speak, which is always something super powerful to me. And so anytime I hear a band that has like a familiar sound but is singing in a totally different language, I think there's just something really great about that experience and about like trying to absorb that. I did not know the political background of like that region and like the band dealing with that region, but knowing like about the sort of like unrest in that part of the world that has existed for so long, it makes perfect sense that like really aggressive, angry, like sharp hardcore would come out of that part of the world, I think too. So it was really cool to listen to it. I think it's like really dense, like spacious, full hardcore. It was like the sound quality of it was great. I thought it was mixed really well. And I actually really loved this cover art. I liked this cover art better than Zaäar's. Again, photography.
You love the photos, yeah.
But it's a badass fucking photo on the cover of this record. So I loved it.
I've got a lot to say. Everything you said, Aria, like all the different types of music that they kind of touch on. It's almost like they're showcasing what they can do, you know, and I loved it. I will say though, there's definitely some death metal elements to this to this album too. And I was just like, I definitely wore out my welcomes on Bandcamp with this one, and I want to order the cassette tape that they have for it. Did you order that by chance or no?
Yeah, I do. I got the tape. Like
yeah. So I gotta order it. I have tribalistic and brutal breakdowns. It shows the range of the vocals with the death metal vocals singing. He's got beastly guttural growls and this perfect like death metal grunts that he adds to it. So death metal, I don't know. There's like 3 different kinds of death metal singing, and they do all 3 in this band. The third one is the pig squeal, and they don't use it a lot in this, but they definitely used the pig squeal a little bit in it, and it was fucking spot on. They didn't overly do it. Like sometimes bands like Job for the Cowboy, they do the pig squeal pretty well, but sometimes it's like you're listening to it, you're like, all right, people are gonna think like you're fucking murdering somebody, you know what I mean? Because so you gotta like kind of like crank it down a little bit, but they just use just enough of it. The guttural growls in this one is definitely what sold me on the vocal portion of it. Do you know what the language is? Is it Arabic?
Yeah, it is.
So at some points I thought I heard like French in there, and I looked it up, and like that part of North Africa, French is like one of the sub languages that are you know there. It doesn't matter. I didn't understand a single word of it, but I didn't need to understand what they were saying to hear how the music translates.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
They did have some translation on their Bandcamp, which is cool too. They put
awesome.
The lyrics in Arabic and then in English, which is cool. The name of the band does sound French to me though. I'm not.
Yeah,
sure
that's why I had trouble with the pronunciation.
Yeah.
I was like,
so it could have a little bit of both. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what I don't know. And then I had some bullet points. Hardcore cadence and dramatic guitars of the band called Immure. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them. There was definitely, I heard some like Sepultura / Soulfly tribalistic drum
Oh
beats
yeah,
going
I
on.
hear that.
You definitely got to hear that. Yeah. It's got the Job for a Cowboy Drudge with the guitar and some of the vocals. And then track 5, I should have wrote the name down, but it's got a little bit of like this Static X like machine sound that they had. And yeah, I don't know. It was just a whole like smorgasbord of fucking metal styles and bands. And I was totally into it. I really like when the first track, when they belt out that guttural growl, I was like, yes. I think I went in the chat and I was like, yes. That's what this was for. I was totally on this, man. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm a huge fan of death metal and shit, but like what I like, you know, and this is right up my alley.
You got the chuggas.
I sat down, put my earbuds in, you know, and I see what this is, and it says Tunisia, and I'm like, all right, let's see where we're going here, especially after the last one, right? Like how I was like, where's Aria bringing us? Okay. And right away you hear the tribal, you know, drumming, the percussions, and I was like, okay, I could do this. This is cool. And as soon as the metal kicks in, I literally went, wow, loud as hell. My wife came in and she's just like, everything all right? I was like, you got to hear this. And I played it for her immediately. And I was in, dude. So I literally wrote down, wow. First word I wrote, Tunisian tribal metal. I have no clue what they're saying, but I am feeling it. This is heavy as fuck. Face melting riffs, explosive percussions, and a growling vocals so primal they evoke visions of ancient demons rising from below. Holy shit, I love this. That's exactly what I wrote, because everything you guys said about it is spot on. It's just it's heavy. There's all these influences of metal. The vocals are all over, man. You've got like you said, Trev, you've got strong vocals, you got the growling, that guttural. I can't believe how much I loved this. I was like, this was awesome. This was awesome. This
was my pick out of this bunch. This was
nice.
It's nice to find a band that goes to like a new part where you're like, no, they didn't. There was a lot of that on this record for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, now we're in the pocket, and then they jump to like a new thing. I'm like, whoa.
Now I want to go back and read the lyrics so I know what they're saying. That's awesome. Because for me, like not knowing what they were saying and just the sound, it sounded very ancient, very kind of like mystical almost. And then the metal came in. It was like, oh, okay, we're going here. Let's do it. Awesome.
Yeah, I also looked up like the lyrics and what the band was about before, because I got into a situation one time where I really liked a band and found out they were fucking Nazis because I didn't understand them. So like I wanted to make sure. I love this though. I wrote metalcore mixed with new metal. Like I got almost early System of a Down, like that style of new metal vibes mixed in with the metalcore, a lot of kick drums, chug riffs, which I love, and the gritty vocals. Like I loved everything about this album, even though I had to Google the lyrics.
I loved it, man. I don't know. That one was fucking whew.
It's like it's weirdly fun for how heavy it is. Like like it's palatable. It's not like just ear piercing. It's like kind of like, all right, but
yeah,
cool.
I had a huge smile, man. As soon as that kicked in, I was like, whoa, this is so awesome.
Yeah, I threw it on when I was going for a run, and I was like not really sure what I was getting into. Then I'm like, oh hell yeah.
That's the fastest run you've ever done. All right, last man up, Jeff.
All righty. So all right. So for my stuff, for my local, I actually had to go back at the beginning and double check that I hadn't already brought them to the table, which I was kind of surprised that I hadn't. But for my local, I went with my pal Jameson's band Raise a Cult. They're from New Hampshire, but I mean they're local enough. And
are they? I thought it said Portland, Maine.
Oh, they can. They're the members of the band are spread out among.
Oh, okay. It's
New
regional
Hampshire.
though, so it doesn't matter.
New Hampshire and Maine. They do. You're right. They do kind of. I think they do consider themselves to be from Portland area.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, they're in like Maine and New Hampshire. So, but they're just straight up like fun pop punk. No frills really. They draw a lot from the band Against Me. They have a lot of Against Me guitar licks and stuff like that in there. And they just put out this EP where the Streetlights End last year, and it's great. It's just super fun to listen to, and they're a local band that they put on a pretty good show every time I've seen them, and so I wanted to bring them to the table. And yeah, I don't have a ton more to say about it except that I think they're all pretty good musicians. Pete, the guitar player and lead singer in the band, is super talented. I've heard him playing a bunch of stuff, and he's pretty good. So yeah.
You know, it's funny. I went back and looked too, because I felt like we talked about them before, but I don't think we've never talked about.
We didn't. No, I thought I had maybe brought them to the table like early on, like in October, and I was like, wait,
Yeah.
did I talk about them already? And I was like, no, I didn't.
I wrote down that they have to me it sounded like they had like a fast pump you up West Coast kind of guitar sound, almost like a face-to-face guitar. And then their lyrics, I don't know, there's something to do. I'm really strange when it comes to like cadence, right? When I hear singers sing and the cadence of their vocals, really, I don't know why it always sticks out to me. This one had almost like a Misfits vibe to the cadence of how they were singing the song. I love that it's a Ghostbusters reference. And the cover gets a 3.5 star for me. And their latest single is called Zeke the Plumber, which is a fucking salute your shorts reference, which is a show I watched on Nickelodeon when I was a kid.
That show was awesome, dude. That show was fucking awesome.
They definitely are. They have a goofy vibe to them too. There's a little bit of they don't take themselves too seriously in their lyrics and song titles and things like that. So they've got, it's not full blown camp in my opinion. It's far from it, but it's definitely got sort of, we don't take this too seriously, like kind of vibes.
I feel like they were on a bill I was supposed to go to the show of, and I got sick and couldn't go. Were they supposed to play? Did they play with you? Have they played with you, Aria?
Yeah, so Jeff booked the show. I think it was in August of last year. We played at the show.
Oh, my birthday show they played. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of when. I don't know. Anyway, I was supposed to see them once, and I think I got sick or whatever. And I thought I had it was before like we could find COVID tests everywhere, so I just kind of like went to CVS and I took the test, and I still wasn't feeling, even though it was negative, I still was sick. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking go to the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was definitely into it though.
For me, high octane punk rock with hardcore vibes. And this is funny because you said this, Trev, but I put the vocals are great, strong, and at times touching on Danzig era Misfits. There's also flavors of AFI in there for me. I don't know what it is, but it's got that kind of, I don't know. It just had a feel where it kind of reminded me of AFI. I definitely dig them. I'll be checking out more of their stuff for sure. But I also put here, love the name of the band, Ghostbusters reference. So nice.
I apparently, I think I might have listened to the wrong band. The band I listened to, I really fucking like though. Because I have an almost psychobilly, like punk psychobilly sound. The vocal delivery reminded me a lot of early Tiger Army. So maybe I was like Tiger Army without stand-up bass. Maybe I'm guessing I listened to the wrong fucking band. I need to go back.
I put it in the chat like correctly. Did I spell it correctly?
Yeah, I know you had it in there. Yeah, I copied and pasted it. So.
And I know what this band is.
I'm bringing it next month because I really liked it.
That's awesome.
I wonder if it's like a band called Where the Streetlight Ends, and then the name of the album's always a cult.
I don't know. I feel really bad now, though. I'm sorry, Jeff.
I think that's awesome. No, I think it's hysterical. It's all good.
But yes.
Aria. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was listening. So obviously I'm biased because like I know the people in the band, but they like run a pretty tight ship, and I like enjoy that. And one thing I think that's kind of cool listening to their songs is they, instead of just barreling straight through, they kind of have like these big like melodic breakdowns, like especially like leading up to like choruses and stuff like that. That I think is like a cool little flavor to kind of keep the listener engaged. And they're like really melodically tight. They have a good like hankering for that. Um, and so yeah, I'm always hyped on the homies. So
Cool. All right. So the album art, this is where shit got super fucking weird. What happened with this exercise for me personally is that I fell into full-blown option paralysis. I was like I thought I would like search through Bandcamp's like general thing like for a few pages and I would find something really cool, and but like I kept finding album after album after album, and I was like I like this one too, but I like this one better, but then this band I listened to and it sucks, and like I don't like, it was just, I got so overwhelmed with it. And so my X factor actually was a second choice based on an album art. Actually, both my album art and my X factors essentially came from album art. My main album art pick is this. It's a full blown record by this guy Carey. But there's only one single from it available to stream on Bandcamp currently. After I chose the record, again, I'm a super sucker for photography. I will always gravitate towards photography. And the reason for that, I think, is because some of the first records I remember having when I was a kid all had photography as the album art. It seemed to be a popular thing in the mid 90s with like a lot of like alternative rock and pop rock bands and stuff like that. They all seemed to do photography back then. And so it was just the first thing that kind of connected me with like music and understanding what an album was about and like getting the vibes of the album. And Aria said something earlier about how like sometimes it can suck. Sometimes it's just like a crappy picture of the band and there's nothing really like significant about it. But then other times I think it can enhance, like photography can just enhance the experience of a record a lot. And I really dug this photograph and I thought that this album cover was really cool. Then I was reading about it, and so apparently this dude is like the dude from the band Bon Iver, which is a very well-known, very famous like weird spacey ethereal indie band that supposedly, from what I've heard, puts on a really amazing, like very elaborate live show. Like the sound that they set up on stage and the way it's mixed and the way that the different speakers are spread out around the room and stuff like that, they do this really incredible almost like sound installation as a live performance. That being said, I never was into it. Anytime I've really heard it, it's not really my style. And this record sounds very much like it fits with that, vibe of Bon Iver. Like it's this kind of spacey, mellow, weird kind of indie stuff. And I didn't hate it. I definitely didn't hate it. I definitely like, it didn't do anything specific for me. But it was just kind of an interesting departure from like the normal punk and folk punk world that I'm generally into. So it wasn't a bad thing, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting result.
The album cover of 5. You definitely, I know you like the photography thing, and I feel like you nailed it with this picture. This, honestly, this house reminds me of my grandparents' house, which is kind of weird in a way too. What you just mentioned about the other band, how they have, what'd you say, like the sound when they put up on a performance? What'd you say it was like? The sound is,
it's like an art installation almost.
Yeah, all right.
That's the way my friend described it to me. I have a friend who saw them live, and that's the way he talked about Bon Iver performing live.
So I felt like it sounded, and maybe this has something to do with that. Like, what the song reminded me of, like a gospel song. Like, when you go to a church and they have like just the way they set up that music. I don't know. I had this like gospel kind of sound to it. And then I probably read way too much into like the song, because there's a line that I wrote down in it. It says, "Have you 3?" And then I said, is that the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost? Is this a Christian song? I couldn't figure it out. It's a very pretty song, and but it's sad.
Yeah.
It's like I was kind of into it, and again,
ghostly almost.
Yeah. And I had again that gospel, because gospel singing, like choir singing or gospel singing, it's different than listening to a band play. You know what I mean? And I don't know why that kept popping into my head. I just felt of sitting in a a pew or something, and just the way when there's gospel, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I've actually seen people do a gospel singing kind of thing, and it's just the way it's set up, and the way, I don't know if it's the way they put the speakers or whatever, but it's just the way it comes at you. It's almost like an art form. So I kind of, now that you had said that, Jeff, that kind of plays into it a little bit for me. Yeah, I mean, I'll listen to the whole album once it's out. Is it out? It's not out, right?
Not fully yet. No, just that one single off of it.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I dug it, and like I said, the album cover, I really got me. Again, because it reminded me of my grandparents' house, and which is strange, but it did. So.
Yeah, I agree. The album cover is nice. I love the contrast, the dark shadows, the shining light, and it's got that yellowish kind of hue to the light, and then the windows in the house got that deep blue. It's a really nice cover. This isn't something I typically go to and listen to, but what I wrote was that this is ethereal. It's got a chill vibe. I can hear it on an indie film soundtrack, but the production was killer. Even when the song is quiet, it was loud and grand and expansive, if that makes sense. Knowing that it's Bon Iver now, that makes even more sense. But yeah, it's a beautifully written song, and it sounds gorgeous. It's just not something I typically would go to and listen to. But I mean, it was good. It's not bad.
I had similar thoughts to Trev. I don't know that I would go with worship music, but as an agnostic who spends way too much time around worship music, like the modern Christian worship music, there's that very ethereal vibe to it. And that was the first thing I thought of, was is
That's
this?
What I was trying to say,
yeah. So I totally get that. And I'll never bash autotune. It's a fucking tool. But to my ear, it almost felt like the singer's voice got it was overused, and it got that slightly robotic feel to it. But that might just be me.
I think the big hall reverb is what makes us in the church.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a really cool, interesting album photo. I definitely see why it was picked. Something about it is just very I don't know exactly what I'm getting into. I liked the song. I'd be more interested in the context of a record, how it expands out. I didn't really feel very strongly about it. I really wanted there to be a bigger hook, but it felt a little too washed out for me. I thought the production was good, but I'd be interested in hearing. I don't know if I'll sit down and listen to it, but I think in the context of a record, that would be the make or break on whether I'm into it or not into it. But musically, I had no qualms with it. It was tight, solid, well produced, but didn't really go the full distance for me.
Yeah, I feel like it's a roll of the dice. It became this big roll of the dice, and I just went entirely off of the cover. I was just well, whatever this sounds like, I'm just gonna pick it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me very curious to hear though what the rest of the album might sound like. I don't know, and if that song if the whole album is like that and really sleepy like that, then I don't think it's an album I'm gonna dig. I think that's too much of that vibe. It was a sleepy kind of song to me.
No, definitely.
I don't know. It's sleepy, which is funny because the album cover doesn't give me that vibe. The album cover is and also with the way he did the text on it, that's a very kind of vintage retro 80s with the kerning or whatever you call it,
Mm-hmm.
really spaced out. I feel like there were a lot of records in the 80s that had that kind of text on the cover.
Mhm.
So it's not at all what I would have expected it to sound like. And then I was listening to it and then I was reading like who the guy is and I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. I just don't get. But that album cover, yeah, I don't know. It's like it's got alien vibes or something, like alien abduction vibes going on.
Yeah,
It's just something.
yeah, serious.
So I liked that. But yeah, and then so then my second pick, my X Factor, was actually wound up being, I had 2 X Factors and I saved one. I'm saving one for next week, which is or next month rather, which is a local band. But I wound up going with this one, which I really dig again, sucker for photography, really dug the album cover. This is also it's this band Night Shop, and the name of the record is Forever Night, and it also has very mellow, kind of relaxed, like chill vibes, but a little bit more rock and roll on this, a little bit more like country rock influence. I really dug the kind of Dylan-esque vocals and the slapback delay on it. It's almost like Dylan meets, I don't know, Gaslight Anthem or Springsteen or something. Like it had a little bit of an oomph to it that kept it moving like throughout the whole thing. Definitely, again, not a genre that I would lean towards generally listening to. And I kind of was surprised at how much I did kind of dig it. It was just like kind of nice, mellow, kind of folky rock music to listen to. So, yeah, I dug this one overall. I thought it was cool.
This one was probably my favorite album cover. Solid five for it. It gave me like 50s, 60s rock and roll kind of era. I'm totally into it. I called it the love child of Elvis and Bob Dylan. There was like an organ in there too, right? There was like, wasn't there? There was an.
I think so. I have to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, the organ. There was, at least there was one song. The organ. There was because I know I wrote it down with an exclamation point. So definitely the organ was huge for me. I hope it was an organ, because then I'd just be an idiot. But there's a song called "Just to Get Home," and the guitar on it reminded me of like Richie Valens. We all know who Richie Valens is, I think. I hope. Yeah.
La Bamba.
Yeah. It reminded me of him.
Okay.
It reminded me of him. I might have been saying his name wrong. Sorry. It reminded me of like a Richie Valens guitar. And I think I already said that this was my favorite cover art, so it was definitely a 5. I dug it. I think the cover art on this one really supports the vibe of the music that's on there.
For sure.
So
yeah. I put for me this, when I started it started almost with an alternative dance rock kind of like sound, almost like the Killers or like Kings of Leon. But then it got, and it was catchy, head bopping but then it kind of, the album eases into like this mellowed out acoustic electric groove, right? And it kind of stays along that lines. It's not as upbeat or dancey, but I liked it. I thought it was a dynamic album. It was enjoyable. Nothing really bad to say. All the positives that you guys gave it, I echo for sure.
I think this is why I like doing this. It seems like every month somebody brings something that like emotionally just hits my mood, and I fucking love this album. I moved to the country from the city, and I wrote that this album reminds me of like just walking around the city on a summer day with headphones in, like looking, people watching, checking out building. I don't know. That's just where the whole album put me. And I love the acoustic guitar foundation with the heavily distorted bass lines over it. I really dug this album.
Yeah, I really liked this. It was like, I don't really know how to describe it in terms of like musically. I would say it's like slightly garagey, kind of like indie rock. It just, something about it, the way he writes songs, I found like really endearing and very like just pleasing to listen to. It was like fun. It was like, but not like I'm having fun partying, but like kind of like just like driving late at night, kind of just it's a very specific headspace, this record, and whatever the album cover is the headspace exactly. Like it's framed really well, and maybe just because there's night in the band name and night in the title name that it feels like a nighttime record to me, but it, like, something about it's just like really endearing. I don't know what it is. It's hard to put my finger on it, but like the vocal delivery and the songs, they're kind of like quirky, but have this kind of like longing sense to them, and I like that.
Sweet.
Cool. Closing.
By the way, I'm the biggest thing I'm bummed about this whole thing is that Pigeon Pit's Feather River Canyon Blues, they don't have it on a vinyl. I want to buy it.
Oh,
so
I
badly
know,
on a
right?
Vinyl, but it's not.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess closing arguments on anything. Everyone's favorite.
I think it was some good picks overall, man. We had some really good ones.
I think so. Jeff hated my cover art one, but that's
it's starting to get fun because I feel like we're starting to get weird with the cover art and just our X factors and stuff, and then like everybody's bringing a banger that somebody else is just in line with. So like this month's, like, I guess apparently this record hit it with Mike and Pigeon Pit hit it with me. Like we're all into it. So I'm digging it.
I think I think the last 3 months, every month it's been like, oh, I'm so excited for this one. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like more than like just a normal one. I think we're doing a good job. I think we got our thing down for how we're gonna, who goes first and who talks after that. And I think we got everything. I think everything's smooth. Having a guest on. Aria, thank you for being our guest today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Plug yourself, man. Plug you.
Yes, my name's Aria Rad. I play in a band called Coffin Salesman, and you can find us wherever you find music. coffinsalesman.bandcamp.com for your next Bandcamp Friday. Also, for your consideration, kcuf.bandcamp.com. or C Skidmore / whatever the Bandcamp is for that band. Yeah, all projects I'm involved with that, yeah.
Michael, go.
I'm Michael. I don't really have anything to plug. I don't currently have anything. I have some projects I'm working on. I feel like I say that every month.
You got a YouTube channel, don't you?
And I actually have a new video coming this week. Yes.
All right, then.
So the YouTube channel is punk.a.folk.
Are you waiting for me?
Jeff.
Jeff Bousquet. I play some music. I have an EP on Bandcamp. It's just jeffbousquet.bandcamp.com. And I have a podcast called the Dirty Decibels Podcast. And it is dirtydecibelscast.com. And new season's coming soon, hopefully.
Nice. And I'm Chris Chavez. I do a bunch of podcasts. If you want to find them, head over to the network, bicbp-radio.com. I'm on like 5 or 6 different podcasts. I also have some YouTube projects that are coming up here soon, and hopefully next time we talk, there'll be something to announce.
Nice. I am Trev Allen, the Struggling Artist. You can find the Struggling Artist podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. There are some things in the works that we can't talk about right now, but they're big and they're coming up pretty soon. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna plug one. April 23rd in Worcester, Massachusetts, at the Hotel Vernon. It's gonna be the Michael Caine and the Morning Afters record release for Broke But Not Broken. You should come check it out. It's presented by State Line Records and the Struggling Artist podcast. This is something new that we're venturing into, and I'm hoping it's great. So come check it out. Let me know. I'll buy you a beer. I think Narragansetts are like $1, so that's what you're getting. That's it for this month. Thank you guys so much. Everyone who's who listens and all that jazz. Next month we're gonna have a new second criteria, and we'll see how it goes from there, right? So bye-ish.
See ya.
Bye.